Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Trans Lesson Plan, your go to podcast for transgender history. As always, I'm your host, Mari. And it is an absolute pleasure to have you all here today on this lovely Sunday morning because I'll be dropping this episode early because it's the Super Bowl today. And since I'm a very big sports guy, I will not be missing this game. Obviously, you all mean more, which is obviously why I'm recording a day before and then releasing it earlier than usual. So if you are watching the Super Bowl today, have a great day. Enjoy. I'm sure some free food unless you're the one hosting it. I'm sure you're gonna take a lot of money out your pockets. But enjoy the free food, even if you don't know what's going on with the game. I think it's gonna be a very good game today. So yeah, I will be busy. And I told myself that I don't want to drop an episode when I'm sure people will be watching the game. So that's why I'm dropping it very early in the morning. Happy Black History Month. As a Black trans man who decided to find his love in learning more about transgender history, it means a lot to have you all here backing me. And those who are a part of that intersectionality of being Black and trans. I just want to say that I love you and that, I know the last couple of weeks have been, I apologies for the courtesy, but a shit show. Yeah, but we're gonna find a way. As we always done, whether it's us being trans or whether it's us being Black, we've always found a way to make our presence known, to continue to fight against injustice, discrimination, hate, etc., etc. So it's not new, but it does suck to be, the 20th century and we have to do this all over again. So, but yeah, I love my Black people, love my family. Power to us, and I hope Black History Month gets better. Let me just say that because, like I said, I know it's just been crazy. My apologies for not dropping the episode last week. I had some home stuff that I'm figuring out right now. With getting all my things to my new place, so it's been chaotic, and it will be chaotic next week too. But I'm gonna try my best to record the episode prior to all this moving things happening. Alongside that, of course, too, advocacy work that's happening in the back end with me and other people within the community, the local community, and kind of we're trying to push that out more national as well. Where, with all the presidency stuff and the executive orders and all kinds of things, it's for advocates trying our best to, and activists who are trying our best to push out, inform, educate, everything you can possibly think of. It has been a whirlwind. So I apologize for last week. And I'm happy I can get this out today. Today's episode is gonna be extremely quick, primarily because the topic of discussion doesn't have much of a past because it has been erased mostly. So it was hard for me to kind of do a lot of research on this and work with my team to get this done. But also too as well, I want to keep this short and sweet, just because I want you all to enjoy obviously your Sunday, but with everything that's going on, I haven't had much time, and the team haven't had much time to write really everything that we wanted to. So I'd rather have something rather than nothing, even with everything going on right now. So today's topic should be probably the limit of 15 minutes, maybe 20, because I'm obviously dragging this intro out longer than I want to. So let's get into today's episode. Before I do, as I always like to start off my podcast episodes, welcoming all my listeners. So if you are brand new here, welcome to the Trans Lesson Plan podcast. This podcast is not just about history, but it serves as a platform for education, provide you with some valuable insights into the issues about the transgender community. History too as well. Issues isn't like a bad thing. Issues means like our history. Our goal here is, to aim to inspire understanding, promote inclusivity, and to continue to inspire conversations about the transgender community with this expert knowledge that you get and the resources for further learning. So Each of our episodes are designed to be concise yet comprehensive, with a duration of about 15 to 20 minutes to give you something to start with, and you can learn more on your own time. So, welcome all of my new listeners, and I hope you enjoyed today's very short and simplified episode. For all my returning listeners, as I always like to do, is thank you all so much for continuing to support the podcast. It is very heartwarming to have people back me up and to have continuous listeners come back here, take a few minutes out of your day to just learn some quick history. So I greatly appreciate that. And I couldn't do this without you all. So thank you. All right. So today we'll be diving really into the life of a Black trans woman by the name of Mother George, who left her mark really on midwifery in the 19th century. And I hope I don't know if midwifery is actually technically the term I want to use here. I don't even know if that is a term. I'm looking this up. Midwifery. Okay, yeah, it's a word. It's a word. Okay, I couldn't tell. I know midwife, but like I said, I'm trying to think of this in like a plural tense, and I'm accurate with that. So to get started on Mother George's life. Starting in the post-Reconstruction era, as many Black Americans at this time were assaulting freedom and trying to start new beginnings, Mother George actually embarked on a journey that will end up touching countless lives. Now, she was escaping the bonds of slavery, ended up making her way to the Pacific Northwest, eventually settling in what was then known as Grays Lake, Idaho. Now, what makes Mother George's story particularly compelling, really, from what I read, is her role as a dedicated midwife, because we really don't hear too much about that in today's current environment. And I'll talk about that kind of a little bit high level momentarily. And a caregiver, which we do see more of. Now, over the decades, she had ended up delivering more than 1,000 children, serving both Black and white families in her community at that time. And this remarkable achievement really becomes a little bit more significant when you think about it, because we have to consider the social and racial dynamics of the 1800s, right? Now, most of us, I would hope, know about post-Reconstruction era in the U.S. during this time. But when we think about from a social standpoint, right, from a social landscape, we're talking about racial segregation and systematic discrimination still being a norm, against African Americans, right? Having the unmet promises of Reconstruction that led to what we now know as the modern civil rights era. So, political landscape, very similar to what we see today, right? Shifted in favor of white supremacy. The KKKs was out there, violently reversing the changes of radical Reconstruction. Jim Crow laws were enacted. So, not the best times, but like I said, kind of having a Black trans woman be a midwife at this time and being able to assist, like I said, all walks of life during this time is why I just mentioned that it's a very significant achievement to do. So as you continue on, Mother George's impact extended far beyond really the delivery room, right? She was a pioneer in multiple ways as a Black settler in Idaho as well, and as a Black trans woman living authentically really in the 19th century, and as a trusted medical practitioner at the time with professional opportunities for Black individuals, especially Black trans people, were severely limited, aka really not existing at all. Another thing I like to mention that I read about is that she was actually able to live stealth, right? So for those who don't know what stealth mean, it means that, in a quick and easy definition, that she was accepted and recognized really as the woman that she wanted to be. And she was sought like that throughout her entire life. And she actually ended up having the support of her Native American mother as well. And it really wasn't until her death that her assigned sex at birth was actually public knowledge. Unfortunately, like many trans histories and stories, Much of Mother George's story has been obscured or erased, which is why me trying to find any type of academic readings about her life was extremely hard to do. Um, you may see a book if you end up looking more into Mother George, a book called Mother George the Midwife Who Shot Grace Lake, um, written by an author by the last name of Cantwell. You may see this book. It's only $3 on Apple Books. I ended up buying it and reading a little bit, so I can be able to kind of see if I can get a little bit more out of this story, which is still a little bit hard to do. Um, but as Mr. Cantwell wrote the story at the beginning, kind of bringing the upbringing of Mother George's life, he refers to her as he, right? And then later on in the book, refers to her as she, her pronouns. So, a disconnect a little bit there. So it made me feel like it's written kind of like in a transphobic lens. Sometimes I would say, like I said, having to read books that kind of have opposing views from stories that I like to read is part of my job because I had to read opposing view type of books in order to get, different perspectives of what others think to help me make my points. So sometimes it sucks to read books like that. But like I said, it still provides me some type of insight. So you may see, if you decide to read that book, you may see it in that sort of context, which is understandable. Because although I guess it kind of makes its way through, it's still kind of failing to honor her identity from the very beginning. You may read stories where they fail to honor her contributions to midwifery as well. So, like I said, obviously what I try to do is what we know obviously paints a picture of a remarkable woman who was extremely important to her community's well-being, right? And I think that's the most important thing. And obviously makes an impact on transgender history. So Mother George and her family, there's another tidbit of this that I actually ended up reading was that they were the founders of Idaho, which is crazy, right? Not crazy, but like I said, you don't hear these things in some of these stories. They actually end up arriving in. You all know about those like covered wagons. So like if you watch like a really old movie, you see these wagons and they have like the little cloth coverings. Do they have those in Bridgerton? Maybe, I don't know. I gotta rewatch. I watched the first season and watched it since then. But they had the covered wagons that you see in like the old movies. And they were coming from the east, right? Now they were true Black pioneers, and yet their story was largely erased from both Idaho and American history. And what this erasure does is speaks to the broader pattern of how trans histories, particularly those of Black trans individuals, have been systematically removed from the historical narratives that we know of from past and present, right? So today, Mother George's legacy lives really as an inspiration to what I think as trans healthcare workers, the midwives, and the caregivers, the community caregivers. Now, all of us, at the very least, I'm sure, knows a Black trans woman who is a community caregiver, right? This could be house mothers. This could be, like I said, those who own nonprofits, do community gatherings, food banks, etc. We don't really hear a lot about trans healthcare workers and trans midwives. So I love to hear more about those stories. You can share those with me via email if you want, because I like to tell a bit more about those stories. I don't think we hear too much about them. I know that they are out there. I know that we have some Black trans women or trans individuals, period, not just Black trans women, but trans identifiable people who are in the healthcare world. I would love to hear more about your stories. Because I think, like I said, taking Mother George's legacy, for one, puts this in a broader light to even talk about this today. But also, two, learning more about what you all see and what you all experience and figuring out how we can put that into its own particular story. That'd be great. Now, her story reminds us that trans people, and like I said, particularly Black trans women, have always really been vital members of the community. They've been providing essential care, support, for really anyone that they are surrounded by, right? Whether that's a member of the community, whether you're still someone that you know, and even allies. Like I seen a story recently on was it Twitter or Instagram, where, as you all know, with the Orange Man being in office and all of his peers saying that trans people are the reason why I guess the world is ending, which makes no sense. Uh, uh, a woman, obviously not identifiable per se, but she had wrote a comment saying that there were trans women who used to go into the bathroom back in the 90s, and she had never had a bad experience with trans women during this time. And I'm assuming that she's like a white conservative woman. Um, where she was like, they would help me, get my makeup together, tell me that I look pretty, et cetera, et cetera. It's all good things, obviously, right? And she was like, they were helping me get away from the fear of cis men who were being weird, predatory, all the things like that. But basically, she was saying that trans women have always been vital members to essential care and support for those who are around them. And the real enemy out there is cisgendered men, which, so the tradition of Black trans and queer midwives and doulas, I forgot about my doulas, that Mother George represented continues today, right? With individuals who are creating really a sanctuary and caring for future generations, just as she did really over a century ago. So, as I like to do for all of my episodes here, is my key takeaway. So, the first one is that Mother George, being a Black trans woman who really worked as a midwife in the 19th century, delivering 1,000 babies, like I said, serving at a time where significant racial discrimination and segregation were happening, is huge. One, because think about 1,000 babies, y'all. That's a lot of babies. Okay. I can't even do my 100 push-ups without feeling like that's too much. So you think about 1,000 babies, that's crazy. Being able to live stealth and have support by her mother to be fully accepted as a woman in her community. Being one of Idaho's Black pioneers, where her and her family helped really establish early settlements within that state. Her story really highlighting the historical presence and contributions of Black trans individuals in the healthcare side of history. And lastly, having her legacy really be the continuous inspiration for trans healthcare workers, midwives, and community caregivers of today. It's Mother George, everyone. So as we close out today, let's remember that Mother George is not really just, as I mentioned before, a historical figure, but also serves really as a testament to the enduring presence and importance of trans individuals in American history. Like I said, having really much of her story being erased and or written through a lens that, might not be the friendliest. Her story, like I said, even though partially lost through time, stands really as a powerful reminder, excuse me, of the impact that one person can have on their community and how much that impact can lead to today's impact and what that looks like. So with that, that is it for today's episode. I greatly appreciate you all for listening to a very short and condensed one. I know it's still hitting this 20-minute mark from what I'm seeing, but we did pretty good today. If you'd like to follow the podcast, you can follow us at the Trans Lesson Plan on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to follow me, the host Mari, you can follow me at mariiiwrld. That is MAR3ISWRLD. As I mentioned before, we will be having a brand new episode next week, so stay tuned for that. Since it is Black History Month, we'll be covering all Black trans individuals throughout this month. That's what I meant to say at the beginning of the episode. So if you listen to the whole thing to the end, you will know this. But we'll be covering all Black trans individuals for Black History Month. So stay tuned for that. I might be able to knock out 2 episodes to give y'all next week, so I couldn't make up for last week. But I'll definitely have an episode for next week. And to close out, I hope that you all enjoy your Sunday. Stay tuned for any activist information that I will have ready and handy to drop very soon. Like I said, as I'm kind of gathering all the information that I can to help out within the community. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday too as well. Enjoy the free food unless you're hosting. And I will see you all next week. Peace and love. And I'll see you next time.